I am Baroness Finata Glenallen. I'm the librarian of the Royal University of the Mid-Realm, and mundanely, I am a reference librarian. I was an instruction librarian at the University of Toledo, so I taught how to do research. And this class is going to be what I taught them then. I want you to think of this as a process that you're learning. Don't hone in on each particular item I show necessarily as the be all and end all, but look at the process. You're going to learn, start when you're in a totally new topic, start by going to an encyclopedia. The encyclopedia will give you the background information. Then we're going to go looking for books so you know where to go find in-depth information on your topic. And then we'll go looking for current research so that you've got that for your research. Along the way, I'll make sure that we're going to have this well laced with online resources. And I do want to emphasize, I want this to be an interactive class. So if you've got questions, please feel free to break in and ask the question. I work a lot better as a reference librarian. I work a lot better when people ask me questions. Trying to do something off the top of my head, I can do it, but I'd much rather focus on what you want to know. Okay? Have we got everybody willing to buy in on that? Okay.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Okay. Now, when you're starting a new research process, it can be really intimidating, especially if you haven't done it for X number of years. There's so many books out there. There's so much other material out there now on so many different topics. There's all sorts of things online, indexes, search engines. Everybody else seems to know how to use them. And there's always more information than you ever thought possible. We're going to give you how to do this, where to start, what you need to know. You don't just go to random sites to visit. We want you to have a path. The first thing we're going to go through is how to define your topic and how much you already know about your topic. Then we'll look at what encyclopedia articles can give you. And then we'll go looking for some places where you can find books online that'll be possibly on your topic so that you can get into the in-depth research there. And then we'll go into the current research, how to locate journal articles, websites, preprints, conference proceedings, things like that. And we'll do it all based on web resources now, as opposed to 25 plus years ago when I was teaching it and I was handing people books and I was handing people volumes of journals and things like that. So, and your feline friend there learns a lot better if you scritch ears, by the way. That's a good boy. I'm owned by 4 cats. I know how to teach cats things. Okay. This is a good way to define how much you know about your topic. Can you write a sentence about it? You've got the beginnings. You've got a basic background. You need some more basic background information, though, before you go too far on your research. So we're going to show you encyclopedia articles and the background information that they provide. If you can write a paragraph about it, you probably got enough for the encyclopedias, but you may need some more background help there to help define what area of your topic you want to copy, you want to work on. And then if you can write a short paper about it, Good for you. Now, if you want to up your game, we're going to show you how to get into the current research and find journals and conference proceedings and why those are the places you want to hit now. So, encyclopedias, they really are a good place to start. They're not a place to end, they're a place to start. They'll give you a broad overview of your topic. They'll show you different aspects of the field. Usually a good encyclopedia article is going to have several different sections so that you can understand this part as opposed to that part. They're going to be written by an expert in the field, and they may very well have a bibliography, books and articles on your topic that you can mine and go further on. Look there for even more information. It's a starting point. So we got 3 different online encyclopedias here that I located quickly. My topic, as I'm going through this, is going to be color. So we've got one connecting theme to go through. As you're learning the process, it's really helpful to have one topic that you always look up in different resources, because that'll let you compare the different resources and how much information they have on your area by looking at the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, understand that? Okay, good. Wikipedia is actually getting to be better and better as a starting place. They've gotten now, as you can see, they break things up into different sections. They give you good headings on each of those sections so that you know where you want to look for something. They give you now external references. They've been insisting editorially that more and more external references be put into any particular article in their encyclopedia, and they will, at the top of it, make a proclamation of, you need more citations for verification here. So all their citations are down here at the bottom. They give you the links to the references. If this is available online, you can follow these links. If it's not available online, they'll at least give you the ISBN for it and a way that you can go locate it. You may have to go looking on your own. They also will give you some external links to play with so that you can actually follow these links and get to other resources online. This is a Greek encyclopedia in English, luckily, on color. This particular entry is on color. And it's a fairly extensive one, as you can see. By the way, I have to scroll all the way down. And it's got references. And it's got an index. So there's lots of interesting, useful features within any particular encyclopedia. So go take a look at your encyclopedia articles and use them to lead you elsewhere. Often, if you've got an encyclopedia article that is signed, you can follow up on the person. I went looking and found him and found his university page and went looking to see what his interests were, to see if any of them were worth following up on. Now, once you've got good basic background information, that's when you can go into books. And you'll find that there are different types of books which will give you different types of information. If you go look for a textbook in a field, you're going to get a really good overview of the field, starting usually at a moderately basic point and then getting more technical as it goes through the book. They usually will have a good bibliography of basic resources and a good index so that you can find bits and pieces about your topic within that book. A research monograph is going to be a lot more focused. It's going to do a single topic in depth. And these bibliographies can be wonderfully useful if you really want to get to basic background research and information in your field. And there's lots of books out there that are actually conference proceedings. Conference proceedings are actually in some ways a lot more like issues of a journal, except that the conference proceedings take longer to come out than any particular journal article. Usually proceedings for a conference are not going to be available until a year or more after the conference itself is presented, so that the organizers of the conference can gather up everybody's paper, get them properly reviewed and vetted and edited and laid out, and then finally publish the conference proceeding. But those conference proceedings can be a really interesting way to see different aspects of your field and find maybe a few papers focused on the specific area of your topic. So go look at them. And we've got a few places here where you can go looking for online books. Library of Congress, not surprisingly, has a large section of books that you can actually read online. They've even got this special section here, read.gov, which is a collection of other books available to you. And I went looking in here and flipped over to the adults section here and discovered they have a new system of sword exercise available online to read. And you can actually read the book itself online. And they have a whole sword exercise in here. So you may want to take this to your rapier friends and let them get into this. And they may want to try these sword exercises as they're going through this. Let's see, let's go back to, say, page 48 here. And different ways of holding things, different guards. Note this, it can be useful for your friends. So, Worldcat's a really interesting place to browse once you get into it. Worldcat is the place where the holdings of 10,000 libraries worldwide are collected into one spot, so that if you go in there, you can find out what library owns which books. If you need a book and your local library doesn't have it, Worldcat is probably where they're going to go looking to get it for you, to request it through interlibrary loan. I've heard that some local libraries can be kind of hesitant about getting books. There may be a small fee involved for borrowing from another library, but this is the place to go to find out who has it. And if you go looking in here, you may discover that a book that you want is in a library that's not that far away, and you can go visit that library and actually flip through the book there. If you need more information, once you've got the in-depth, if you want to fill out a good research object, the idea is go look for current research in your field. Books usually take several years before they actually are published. So if you want to find what's going on right now, you may very well want to go into journals and articles for your research. We've got subject indexes and online search engines all over the place where you can see what's available online. And there's a lot of stuff out there now available online. Some articles will be hidden behind a paywall, but there are other places where you can find those articles these days that are not paywalled. You can get your hands on a lot more articles than you might have thought possible. Go check your local public library and see what indexes and e-publication they offer for you online. Now, do we have any questions along the way here?
I got here a couple minutes late, so
Sure.
if the link to the handout is possible to be pasted in a little later, that would be great.
I don't have a handout yet. Let me explain the history of this.
I missed a slide or two, I think.
There's a good, it will get done, really it will. I used to teach this 25 years ago. 2 weeks ago, our chancellor discovered what it means when I say I'm a librarian. And I used to teach this stuff. And he sort of shrieked at me, "You mean you've been sitting on how to do research class and you didn't teach it before now?" So I pulled this class together and a second class together in 2 weeks. And I will get this information posted on my website, which I've got at the end of the slides here. And I will get it up within the next couple of weeks, but I don't have it right this instant.
Thank you.
When Andreas discovered that I knew how to teach research, he typed at me in all capital letters, "You mean you've been doing this and you didn't tell me?" So I will do it, I promise.
There was another question that came up in chat, and it's one that I share. Initially came from Godelieve. Is there any reason anymore to seek out an encyclopedia that is in physical format? You know, is there any particular reason to actually seek out physical encyclopedias like at the library, or have they been effectively rendered obsolete by online encyclopedias?
I wouldn't say they're obsolete. Some of the better encyclopedias are still paywalled. They have an online format now, but you have to be at a library with access to it in order to get into those encyclopedias. I don't honestly know how many physical encyclopedias are still being purchased by libraries. I know that for the library where I work now, I work for the Air Force Research Laboratory. I do research for the rocket scientists, essentially. They want the information available to them on their desktop. So we don't buy that many physical books anymore. We buy electronic books. We buy electronic subscriptions to our journals. We have tons and tons of electronic resources. But I'm not sure what your public library, the ones that are most easily accessible to you, is going to have in physical form. I certainly would encourage you to go to the library and get to know the librarians there, because they're going to be possibly the best resource for you for any particular, well, I don't want to say complex research, but in-depth research question you might have. As a reference librarian, I don't know all the information in the world. I know where to go start looking for it. And I know what signposts to look for, what features to be looking for, what links to be following to keep going through whatever I might find online. And by doing that, I can help you find the resources that you might find very useful.
Thank you, Your Excellency. That was my question, and I might as well embarrass myself by talking about this a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm a retired nurse, and I used our reference library at the hospital where I worked a lot. But other than that, I haven't asked a librarian an in-depth question in 40 years. So when you come to the end of the line, let's say you want to research something that, and you kind of can't find anything more about it, or at one point are you an idiot and you should have done it yourself? At what point do you go and speak to your librarian?
You are never an idiot for not knowing something yourself. I'm an idiot about many, 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 many topics that I research every day for the rocket scientists. I am not an aerospace engineer, but I can go find things for them because after 10, 12, 13 years of doing the research for them, I picked up some of their language. I know what words that they jumble about. I don't necessarily know in depth what they mean by them, but I know when I see that word, I'm looking at something that they might be interested in. So I can do the search for them and then pass them the information, and I let them figure out whether or not it's relevant to their research. Okay? So don't be afraid to ask. Never be afraid. As a matter of fact, when we as Scadians come in to ask a reference librarian a question about an area that we're interested in and want to geek out about, our questions are a hell of a lot more interesting to them than the basic questions that come from the general public. Because we are going to ask the follow-up questions and want to follow further on the line. So don't be afraid to ask a librarian the question. They're going to love you. They're going to be going, ooh, cool, and want to follow up on it too. Okay? So please go ask them questions. I've got, actually, let's see. I've got a couple of good places to go looking for current research here on this next slide, as a matter of fact. base-search.net is an interesting place to browse, and a lot of their documents are open access. So go browse in there. Journ is a really interesting site to go prowling because they're linking to things that are all open access. They're linking to university archives and the different dissertation collections that universities have been putting up and pulling together all sorts of interesting places. Journ is my favorite place to go searching. It is on top of Google and it has a curated set of hundreds of different sites that it goes to. Go explore Journ. In fact, let's see how well this works. Let's type color in here. Color and psychological functioning. The Stroop color and word test. And they, of course, pick up on the current use of the term color as well. The influence of color on memory performance, a review. That might be a real interesting one to go through. Color and medieval. In the history of medieval gilding, a common view has been circulating for centuries that the substrate of color can influence the visual appearance. That might be something interesting to follow up on. Journ is a wonderful place. Journ is a really interesting search engine. Go poking around in there. Okay, what other questions have we got to play with? Because I like playing with people's questions. Come on. Nobody else has a question for me? Oh, come on.
Sorry, I have one. How about if I'm interested in how did sort of sending letters was done, developed, you know, in medieval times or like from antiquity to medieval times, you know, how did you send private letters, you know, official letters, postal system, all this kind of stuff?
Okay, well, we know a lot of it was messengers going from place to place. So what you might do is start with the concept of, let's try royal messengers. Messengers in later medieval England.
Right, okay. Again, start with what I know kind of thing and then go there.
Go from there, yeah. See where this guides you. This is a research repository at St. Andrews.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
It's somebody's dissertation.
Cool. That's really cool. Thank you.
And they're going to have a bibliography you can mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Follow it.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. See, this is part of what I learn is follow the links, see where they go.
Okay, that was cool. I just saw a person ask a librarian a question.
And this is what we live for. If you don't give us questions, we're sitting there trying to think, okay, what long-term project have I been putting off for forever that I can get away with doing out here on the reference desk? Or
Okay,
as
I have a
I'm sitting
question.
here next to my phone waiting for it to ring.
I guess bear with me a little bit because I'm kind of piecing together how to word this question as I ask it because it's kind of a broad ranging one.
Okay, let me tell you about something that is the particular talent of a reference librarian. They know how to do a reference interview. come in with the basic idea, and I'll probably pop you some questions to help you clarify what it is I need to go looking for to help you with what you're looking for. So just give me the topic. What are you interested in?
Well, it's well, let me put it this way. It's a bit it's about that in particular. It's not a particular topic, but rather how to go about research. Something that I trip up on when it comes to research, because I love the idea of doing research. When I was in university, doing my research for my papers was one of my favorite things. I was a major in theater. We had a senior capstone project, and 95% of people did a production project for it. They acted or they directed, they wrote a play. I was one of the, I think I was the only person in my 4 years there in my generation to choose the research project option for my capstone, to give you an idea.
Okay.
But an issue that I've run into now that I'm no longer a student and I'm kind of an independent scholar is I don't know, I can come up with a research question of here's a topic I want to explore, but I find it very difficult to figure out where to begin. I remember asking one of the laurels in my barony, like if I want to do research like this, where do I start? And the answer she gave me was libraries are a great resource. And, I was being polite, so I kind of kept it to myself, but I thought, well, I know that. I know that libraries are a great, but, an issue I have is narrowing down, one topic I'm trying to get into is medieval Jewish medical practices. And I'm like, well, where do I begin with that? Where do I find encyclopedias? Where do I find books? Where do I, how can I actually begin this process and find something that's useful, that's not just tangentially related?
Medieval Jewish medicine. Let's just throw it a journ and see what comes back. Medicine in the Middle Ages. Jewish medical students and graduates at the universities of Padua. Islamic and Jewish medicine in the medieval Mediterranean world. Jewish medicine and science.
So I guess
Sometimes you get lucky.
is the question that you are not sure if the library will have useful materials when you go and ask?
I guess it's more just when I'm self-directing my research, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm just it feels like when I'm trying to self-direct my research, I come across what I refer to in university as fluff research, right? I remember when I was doing a paper for my comparative literature course, I found a bunch of useful sources, but basically the books themselves were barely relevant whatsoever. But because I was writing a shorter paper, I just found, the 2 paragraphs that were relevant, and that was enough for me. But when I'm trying to find a specific resource, when I'm trying to actually do in-depth research, 2 paragraphs is not enough. So I find it difficult to self-direct my way to resources that are more in-depth than just something that tangentially has 2 or 3 paragraphs about what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And
I understand where you're coming from now. One thing, you may not like my answer. What you need to do is actually start reading the literature and burrow down deep enough to be able to find out who the researchers are. Not just the research, but who the research network is that's talking about this. Look to see who's citing who the co-authors are, who's doing the work together, who seems to be doing the work as a cluster that's of interest to you. This may take a while. This may wind up not being a short project. I wouldn't try to do it. I wouldn't suggest doing this if you were still in school and needed to get the paper done
Certainly.
for this term. I myself have come up with a way of doing this, of solving the problem for myself. My particular subject interest right now is flax and its use throughout history. Who started using it? Who was the major producers of flax? Who was producing linen? And I happen to have latched on to the research network that does have interest in this sort of topic. They also have an interest in a lot of other topics. There's a series of books being published by Oxbow Books called the Ancient Textiles series. They're up to volume 39, which I have on pre-order. Do you want to know how I know that they have 38 other volumes? As I sit here next to the bookcase that holds all of them. If you find who it is that's doing the research and see who's working together and what papers they're writing, you can often get really deep into the subject and really get a grip on what's going on in the field. And it takes a while and you find yourself immersed in what they're doing, but soon you can figure out, okay, Joe Blow over here is the one who's talking the way that I'm interested, and Jeff Schmo over on that side is talking totally off the top of his head, has no concept as to what he's doing. So I'm going to follow Joe Blow here, and Jeff Schmo can go do whatever he wants to. But you'll be in so deep that you'll understand that that's important. So that's something to geek about.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
don't
That
know if you
is
want to go that deep into something or not.
not
But-
every topic, but definitely some. You know, for some topics, you know, someone in chat mentioned Maimonides. Maimonides, I can totally find his stuff. I want, because my persona is a 14th century Sephardic Jew who earns his bread through a bunch of different means, including by practicing medicine.
Okay.
And Maimonides is a great starting point for that, because Maimonides kind of literally wrote the book on it. But I want to figure out, purely because it's an interest for me and because I want to service this part of my persona, I want to figure out the knit and the grit. Who in period was expanding on Maimonides? Who, you know, what were the practices? So for this kind of topic where I really want to get into the grit of it and really get into the in period academics, that level of depth is exactly what I'm willing to do. That is probably the best answer I've gotten for this question ever. Thank you.
Go in, start finding who's been writing the biographies of Maimonides. Go look at those books, find out what social place you're looking at, and then go looking for history of Yadada during Yadada period. And you'll be able to find out, okay, who were the contemporaries of Maimonides? Who do I need to look for as another person in that field? See if anybody's written a biography about them. See if there's been a whole social history of that field written by someone. That's what you're going to be looking for. It's going to
Awesome.
take a little bit to dig in, but you'll find all sorts of stuff. And it probably does exist. And I'd be willing to bet there's a dissertation out there that's for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Okay.
So let's say I have a broad category of, I want to research the witchcraft craze of the 15th and 16th century. How does the path of research really get me to like a thesis if I wanted to write a research paper for like an A&S competition? Because right now, if I just feel like I'm reading a bunch of data that's about the topic, but I don't have a way to hone in on what I want to say about it.
Okay. That's where it's going to be a lot more reading on your part. Expand out from just reading the tertiary level books that you're probably going into right now. Who are they citing? Who's in their bibliography? Where are they getting their information about the 15th and 16th century crazes? Who's written the articles that they're basing their books on? Go look in the back of those books at their bibliography and see what they've got. Toss those books into a search engine and see who might be citing those books and journal articles and such to bring yourself closer to the present. Because
Okay.
by searching online now, you often can come up with the books that are in someone's bibliography as being cited, and then you'll be able to find the other articles that are citing that article and find the more recent writings on them. It's out there. Believe me. There's tons out there right now. Journ might be a good place for you to work. Start looking in there because they've got some unique research resources available to them in there. I would also, another place, let's see. Let's talk a little bit about preprints and archive here. Preprints are an archive that's been coming into use a lot within the last 30 years or so, where people are putting up papers that they're writing before they submit them to various research journals. And there's a long list of repositories, subject-specific repositories for preprints that you might be able to find an article in. Archive is, come back here. Oh well. This is where you can find conferences and proceedings. Digital Commons has a lot of conference proceedings in it. SSRN, they're a commercial place to store conference proceedings. You might find some interesting stuff there. The thing
I have a
place
quick
I was
question
thinking
about
of for you, Ethos here is a collection of about 400,000 dissertations that have been written at all the different British universities. There are also other dissertation collections available that you can get into to find out what doctoral dissertations have been written. And those can be really useful for you for that type of thing.
For the pre-printed website that you're talking about, are those articles that have already gone through the peer review process, or are they still also pending peer review before publishing?
Actually, they're probably in the midst of the peer review process. Part of putting it up into those preprint archives is so that other people can comment on them and do some quote unquote peer review through that archive. They haven't necessarily gone through the anonymous peer review process that's involved with publishing in a particular journal yet, but they are being looked at by the peers of those researchers, and the peers are commenting on them, and it's giving the researcher a chance to correct some errors that they might have made and go back and revise their paper before it gets submitted for a journal. So they're not necessarily completely peer reviewed yet, but they're on their way. And if a person has posted something in an archive, quite often they also have their own posted collection of their research papers up at on a website at a university or something like that. And you can go look at those there. And those papers generally are the papers that have gone through the peer review process or are peer reviewed and about to be published. So those could be useful to look at too.
I had a comment, not really a question.
Okay.
But anything that I can read on my Kindle, I prefer to do that than read paper. And there's an app called Libby that is, you can access your like card catalog at your library through this app. And you can check out books in the app and it links over to your Kindle, or you can read it right in the app. But the thing that I found helpful is I have library cards all over the state of Ohio. Any city that I can get a digital card at, because different libraries have access to different databases and different resources. And sometimes a book, you can put it on hold at 3 different places at the same time and you'll get it quicker. Like, for example, I'm in Ohio, and the Cleveland Public Libraries gives you access to JSTOR. And Cuyahoga County Public Libraries, if you like videos, their Canopy, which is you can borrow videos and watch videos for free. They give you 50 videos per month. Most libraries give you 10. So depending on how many library cards you get access to a lot of different things. And I just find it helpful for books that you can find at the public library to keep them all in one place if you're doing digital stuff.
Actually, JSTOR right now has a program going where independent scholars can get granted free access to, I think it's up to 200 articles a month that you can download. I've never gone anywhere near that limit. I know that. But you can go into JSTOR without necessarily being connected to a particular library. It's a somewhat limited membership, but you can get in there and at least for you can download the most important looking articles. I know I've gathered up a few that someday I'll actually get a chance to read in depth. They've got a lot in there on the history of flax, you know? So yeah, that's a good comment. There's a lot of places you can find things like that. So go looking for museums too. Often they will have all their artifacts online. There's libraries that are putting more of their archives and manuscripts online. There's lots of places you can go looking for things. But go talk to librarians. They're the ones who are going to help you. They know where to go looking for these things, and they're looking all the time. We're bored. We want to go find new places to play.
I definitely think that people that are newer to the SCA and to the research topics that tend to come up in the SCA, museums tend to be the big thing that they need to get to. And I'm saying that as someone who is, it's February, 7 months into the SCA.
I feel so old.
I know, because for a lot of people, like I said, the answer I got was, libraries are a great resource. Well, obviously, the research into what academia has churned out so far about stuff is going to be in a library. But if you want to get source materials for stuff that's earlier period, museums are going to be where you have to go, because we don't have written documentation from earlier period stuff. So people have asked me, like, well, how do you guys figure out what's period for like a Viking from the 9th century? And I'm like, well, honestly, we look at what they buried in their graves, because we don't have written resources for it, but we can literally look at the artifacts.
And the research reports are now going up online too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I think there's obviously it's a whole other topic, but non-written sources are a gold mine for SCA research, especially early period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more and more is going up online though. It's amazing once you really start getting in there, just how much you can find online. My problem with doing research on my topic is I know how to find too much. I'm going to get lost down 5 different rabbit holes very quickly, very easily.
Yeah.
And I have to be rather firm with myself about getting up and going to bed at night, because I do have to get up and be online to do research for the rocket scientists tomorrow morning.
Oh, the work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Here, this is what I'm striving for. We don't want to teach you everything you need to know. We just want to put you in a position where you can find what you need to know when you need to know it. That's what we're trying to do as librarians, as instruction librarians. You don't need to know all the different resources. You need to be able to go through the process of looking for the resources. When you get to a website that looks like it might be interesting, follow the links. Don't lose the first website though. Make sure you're opening in new windows, which is how I wind up with 50,000 windows open on my Mac all the time, which has my husband furious because I keep adding more and more windows open. But dear, I want to go back to that one that I've had open for 5 months. So, any other questions? I know we're getting close to the end of time here. How much time do we have left, Breezy?
We have about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes till.
Okay. Any last questions?
Is there a handout for this? I was late coming in.
See the URL that I put up here? That's my website, www.funata.org. Resources for research is one of my submenus. I will put this information up in a website within the next week or so.